Mike Miz, how are you, sir?
Hey, how are you? Good to see you, man. It's been a
Dude,
while.
it's been a minute. I was just thinking about you. I'm glad you're doing this. I appreciate your time. Um, and I was thinking about you. And last time I saw you, I haven't seen you in face to face in I don't know how many years. But last time I saw you like this in this form was actually April 8th of 2020. We were fresh into the pandemic of COVID-19. I was on a podcast with it was you. Hoover from Rock 107 and Ryan O'Malley. We did a quick check in with you, and I think you had a new song coming out at that point in time. But yeah, 3 years goes by and a lot has changed.
I know, man. That was crazy. Like thinking about those times and like how up in the air everything was, and it's interesting to think about. But believe it or not, a lot of this that I don't know if this is the right thing to say or not, but some of those times are actually really enjoyable for me. The peace and the kind of quiet and the sort of the whole world going on pause like that. It was actually kind of refreshing and sort of like sort of like the pause I needed at the time, to be honest with you. But
A lot of musicians have said that over the course of the few years I've been doing this. Just like, and a lot of people too. Granted, it was a terrible time, right? People were dying. The economy's crashing. Uh, so much uncertainty, but like a lot of people really kind of took the time, slowed down, kind of did some self-reflecting, worked on themselves, worked on their homes, worked on their families. It was, I don't want to say, I don't want to use the word reset, but it was definitely like something people embraced, all things considered.
yeah, I think you said it the right way. It was like when you're faced with a situation like that, and the only really thing you have to do is sort of, all you have is yourself at that point. You know what I mean? There really wasn't much escape. I mean, I guess you could sit and just watch Netflix all day or whatever, and some people did that, and that's okay too. But I think for me, the point I was at, it was just another like layer of the onion at that point. It was like, okay, there's no changing it. This is the current situation. I can't do anything about it. So yeah, I used it as a time of all that stuff, man, self-reflection and also like I remember around that time, man, I don't know why this popped in my head, but like seeing all those pictures from like foreign countries and stuff where like the air pollution moved out and like you could see and stuff, and there were like wild animals walking through the streets of towns, and there was something pretty wild about that. But yeah,
Yeah,
man.
less people moving and driving, and now we have trains crashing and dumping toxic chemicals into water supplies. It's always something, right?
Oh man, yeah,
Terrible, terrible. But
yeah,
yeah, it's almost so today's March 8th. This is recorded. So this will come out in a couple weeks, but so almost 3 years to the date. Like we're like 11 months. Uh but back then we were talking about new music. I think you were actually at your mom's place in New York at the time.
yeah,
And we've got more new music from you coming out, a CD, a record due out April 14th. So that's exciting.
yeah. Yeah, it's been great. The last year, for me, things have really been moving, and just been. It's kind of cool. Like when I first came to Nashville, I've just passed my 4 year mark, and obviously COVID in the middle, kind of almost like took a shaved a year and a half off of what would be considered normal living down here. But man, so I just wrote that whole first year, kind of first year and a half I was here, just really like kind of stayed in the background and just learned and watched people, and went out to see some of the greatest musicians in the world play like on a regular basis, and sort of took all that inspiration and started writing, and then the recording process happened, and it's taken a while, but yeah, it's all kind of coming to a bit of like a culmination right now, and the tunes are all finally coming out, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty exciting. Really kind of really neat time in my life right now.
So this is 3 years in the making, essentially.
Yeah, well, the funny thing, so like that whole first year I was here, like I said, I was kind of writing and meeting people, and and just kind of hanging back and taking my time and getting the lay of the land. And then, shortly after that, we had the whole COVID thing, and I was at my mom's, and my grandmother had passed away, and a couple things, happened like that. And then, so about another, maybe almost a year I was up there for about 4 months, and then I came back here, and everybody's still kind of tiptoeing around. But I was finally able to get into the studio. I guess, yeah, that's crazy, man. It's honestly, this record has been 2 years in the making. Yeah. So the crazy part about it is the whole record was literally recorded in 3 days, like top to bottom, all the songs. 90% of the record was cut right then and right there. And then, man, I took my time. I wanted to get it right. I wanted to, get it mixed and get just the right amount of like overdub stuff happening. And it took a long time, man. I think that's what happened too, is, I recorded the record and it still really wasn't much on the horizon. But then all of a sudden that summer, if you remember, like things started opening back up again and everybody got like real busy again. And like, so it was, there was a lot of moving parts. It took a while to sort of all come back together, but it's weird. Once again, it was kind of frustrating at the time when things were taking so long, but now in hindsight, when I look back, I see like some sort of like grand purpose behind it, or I'm like, once again, I was glad I kind of took my time and just let it, didn't force it, let it happen how it needed to. So
Yeah, it really feels like these last 3 years have been like, part of me feels like it's been so long, and part of me feels like it never actually really happened. Maybe it was just a dream that we woke
yeah,
up from. Uh, but yeah, I mean, it's a long time, right? But it's not, and it's cool that you were able to take that time to kind of focus on these songs, and also just let them come as they did, right? It's just kind of like there was no pressure, there was no I got to get a record out, I got to do this, I got to do that. Like it just kind of happened.
totally. Yeah, it's funny that you say that. Even the whole recording process, I think that was one of the things for me, like getting a little older now, and I've been at it for a long time, doing this whole thing, writing, recording, playing. And I sort of knew better this time around, and especially in a town like this too, like things just happen here if you just, kind of keep your head in what you want to do, and just be cool, and don't force things, and like all the right people kind of just came into it's a really awesome story, actually, how the whole record came into fruition and how it all happened. And yeah, it took longer than I wanted it to, but like you just said, like, I used to put so much pressure on myself, and there was nobody ever really breathing down my neck saying like, Mike, you got to have this record done. It was my own personal, like I'd sort of box myself in, and I don't know, man. I got, you get burned out doing that to yourself, so and it's cool. And as we all know, it's sort of like, a lesson in life when you take your time and you do it right, and it's always better in the end, so.
Yeah. And you said that you've been at this for a while, and I feel like your name was synonymous with my time in the media. I started with the Weekender, and I don't think we ever really sat down and talked outside of like I mentioned, that quick interview we did with you, me, Hoover, and Ryan O'Malley, which I was kind of just in the background, listening and watching. So this is kind of neat for me to have you one on one. So again, thank you for the time and thank you for doing this.
Yeah, no problem. Absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, you originated in northeastern Pennsylvania, and you moved to Nashville. You said you've been there for almost 4 years now. How has the writing process, and how has the relocation played a part in this new record compared to previous music that you've written?
Man, that's a great question. Yeah, I mean, and first and foremost, man, yeah, same thing. I remember hearing about you, and you were doing all kinds of cool stuff for music, and like always involved in the scene and stuff, man. And I have nothing but respect for everything you've been doing, and it's really cool. So I'm honored to be talking to you, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, you got it. So yeah, man, all great questions. The thing, I guess, as far as the writing process goes, for me, I was always like a really personal songwriter. Like I wrote songs by myself, at my home, in my bedroom, wherever I was. My lyrics were always super personal. If not, in hindsight, looking back, maybe a little too personal and a little, too sort of like emotional vomit at points. And nothing wrong with that. We all do it.
It's therapy. It's therapy, right?
Well, and that's that's a whole nother tangent I could go on, because it absolutely is, man. Music, we could talk about that in a minute, but music really, in a lot of ways, kind of saved my life, man. It gave me purpose, and it gave me a reason to just keep going, but yeah, man, as far as the writing process goes, so when I moved here, this is the land of the co-write, right? Like Nashville is where people come to co-write. And co-writing, if someone that's listening, it just means more than one person writing, and a lot of times it's usually 2 or 3, maybe 4 people sitting in a room hashing it out. And I was really nervous about going into that. Like I didn't, I was willing to try for sure. And there were some people I wanted to write with, but, I was nervous about, just sort of like giving my ideas over. Like some of these ideas I guard and protect, and, like what I'm always writing tunes. I'm always working, I always got a couple going at any given time. But so it was kind of scary for me to like, present those in a write, and sort of like, once you do that, and once pen hits paper and people start writing, then they're on your song. They're co-writing with you. You know what I mean? They're part of your thing. But once I like let go of that and found a few people that I sort of worked with, man, I can't tell you how amazing it's been. Kind of like I was saying a minute ago, I always held myself to such high standards and put so much pressure on myself, and I always like held myself up to like Bob Dylan's lyrics. If my lyrics weren't as good as Bob Dylan, I'd toil over them. But in the long run, I don't think that really did me any good, man. It was cool. When I moved here, people move to Nashville for all different reasons. But for me, the main purpose, which I'm really still happy about, and I still believe 100% in, is I moved here to grow and to learn. That was my whole goal. I came here to grow as a guitar player, as a songwriter. The best people in the world live here, like this is right now, right here, right now. This is the greatest music, potentially the greatest music scene the world has ever known, and it's happening right now in real time, right here. And so, man, this might be a little long-winded, but you want me to like tell you the story of where I ended up?
Man. That's what we're here for, man. I want to hear it.
This is really interesting, man. So I was supposed to be moving with Jaconda, and I'm sure you remember him from,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I wanted to move to Nashville. Bob Lewis was like my main point of contact. I had another great friend, my buddy. A lot of this too, I can relate right back to Andy Pace, who's a wonderful musician from Northeast PA. Was a drummer in a band called CNC Music Factory, and played with like Gary U.S. Bonds, and played with all these cool people. And he was the one who started poking me. The funniest part about all this is I did an interview with NEPA Music Scene. What's the podcast and the NEPA website, Facebook page?
NEPA Scene.
And everybody that's worked for that is so cool, and I support and love everything they do. And I put a record out, I think it was around that time, and someone had asked me on the interview, like, hey, would you ever consider moving to Nashville? And I was like, oh, no, absolutely not. Less than a year later, here I was. But I was supposed to be moving with Jaconda, and some stuff happened with like the place we were supposed to be moving in. Like things got mixed up, and it was no fault of his own. I kind of bummed that we didn't get to live together, because I love that dude. He's a great guy. So the place fell through, and it was like a month out, and I'd already been selling off all the stuff out of my house, making massive life changes. And my Bob, who I'm sure Bob Lewis.
Yes, Bob Lewis, great guy.
I called him. I was like, hey, man, do you know anybody like down there who might be looking for a roommate? And he's like, yeah, I know this guy named Boo Ray. And of course, everybody, comment when you hear that, it's like, who the hell's Boo Ray? Such a unique and interesting name. And a very, very long story short, is a month later, man, I had packed my Subaru up with all my guitars and everything, my whole life into my Subaru station wagon, and drove down here and, showed up at Boo Ray's, hey, man, I'm your new roommate. And, man, I got to say that first year was really one of the most special times of my entire life. It was me Blu-ray, this other great musician, cool indie artist named OJR, and I highly suggest checking him out, Oliver Rogers. And he was living upstairs. I didn't meet him for a week. All I heard was just music coming out of this guy's bedroom, like for a week. Like he never came out of the room. And then I finally met him, and it was whatever else. And my bedroom that I moved into was previously had just been vacated by now one of the greatest session guitar players in town, this guy named Saul Littlefield, who's become like a dear friend of mine now. But he had just moved out, and he had recently just played on like all the Luke Combs stuff that was really blowing up at that time. And so I moved into his old bedroom, and I was in the house, and me and Bure were like feeling each other out. We'd like pass each other in the kitchen, making a meal or a cup of coffee or something. And I never met anyone who worked as hard as this guy. I mean, this guy he'd be writing tunes and practicing his guitar literally from like 6:30 in the morning until like 2 a.m. And like, it became intriguing to me. I was like, man, these guys like work, like these guys were like going at it like all day long. Same thing with OJR. I mean, just day after day after day, just recording, writing. And I don't know how it happened, but me and Bure, well, I do know how it happened. So we had a living room. This was like a true musician house, right? There was a mess. And our living room at the time was literally just road cases and like half a drum set and mic stands and just random gears, scattered everywhere. And I was like guys, let's put a coffee table in here. Let's move some chairs in. Let's, so when people come over to write or play guitar, we have somewhere to go. And they were like, yeah, okay. So like, I literally found a coffee table that one of the neighbors was giving away. We later found like a futon that someone was giving away, like in their yard, just like moved all this crap into this living room. And I swear, like right from the first night, like once it's like if you build it, they will come.
Right,
like I
yeah.
set up this next living room, and then me and Bure sat down, and we right off the bat, which is so funny actually, perfect timing. We wrote the song 6 Ways from Sunday in about an hour. And that's actually the new single that just came out on Friday. The music video is coming out on this Friday. And man, it was like, we couldn't stop it after that. I'd run over to Bob's, I'd work on some songs with him, I'd bring him back to the house, I'd show Bure, and then we'd start writing. And very long-winded answer, I'm sorry. But the point of it all is I was finally able to start trusting someone else and letting them, sort of like I was willing to take their input on the song. And man, looking back, I cannot tell you how grateful I am that I did that. Some of the lyrics that I was trying to put in the tunes and some of even the chord progressions and stuff, like I think back now to like if I hadn't written them with Bob and Boo, like they wouldn't have been anywhere near as good as songs as I think they are now. So once again, man, I kind of been achieving my purpose of just like growing and learning and being like open-minded to, just to whatever feels right, and to taking that sort of leap of faith. And man, it's been really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine it's like a part of the process and the experience, and you kind of alluded to the fact that you learn to trust people, and you have all these like-minded people around you too. So it's kind of like it happens by accident, and it kind of feels good as opposed to like doing it yourself or just kind of being alone with your thoughts and things like that. So I think like, I mean, not that there aren't people in NEPA that are talented and you could lean on and collaborate with, but in that city, that scene, that vibe, I mean, you probably walk out the door and immediately are overcome with this, like, this is where I'm supposed to be, and this is just this, everything around you is who you are to an extent.
Yeah, man. You know what? Like, let me say first and foremost too, I absolutely love Northeast Pennsylvania. Like, I know a lot of people skip town and the place they grow up, and they're like, oh, I got to get out of here or whatever. But man, that whole valley and that whole area, man, is where my heart will always be. And the people that live there, some of the writers there, I mean, guys like Brett Alexander and my family, my dad, my Uncle Paul, my Aunt Mary that play in the band Old Friends, and people like John Canjar, plays with Nowhere Slow now, unbelievable talent up there. I could name 50 other names too. But other songwriters and real true artists. So yeah, I feel like it was just the next step for me. I was like, kind of, I sort of saw the writing on the wall. Like, if I don't move down there now, I'm never going to do it. And my
Mhm.
first thought was maybe just come for a year and feel it out. But, obviously it's been 4 years now. So sticking it out, it's been really, it's been, one of the best decisions I ever made for sure. And yeah, it's an inspiring place to go, man. And it's also, what's another cool thing about it is it's a humbling place to go. Like, there's a million people in this town that are way better guitar players than me, way better songwriters than me, way better singers than me. And I love it, man. When you embrace that and when you don't look at it as a threat or as you just kind of shed that any sort of jealousy or anything like that. I love it. I love going out and hearing someone just like blow me away. You know what I mean? And I get inspired from that. And it makes me want to go work harder and stuff. It's a really cool thing.
Yeah, you mentioned the talent that's here in NEPA, and I always say that I would put this little scene of ours up against any other city in the country. I really would, and I mean that. And you're a product of that, you know. Um,
Yeah.
but you pick up and you move to Nashville, and I mean, and I'm not calling you old, but I mean, probably what, mid-30s? You did that?
Oh man, yeah. I mean, I was 34 when I moved here. Yeah,
Yeah, and like you're just like,
35.
I'm moving, I'm packing my car, I'm going. I don't even know the person I'm living with. I don't care. Like that's like wild. Like that's so like I'm jealous of that because like my life has been all it's always I have a plan for everything. Like it's all calculated for the most part. Like I don't take any real risks. So like I admire that about you that you're just like, you know what? This is a move I got to make. I'm gonna go do it. Mid 30s, living with who knows. And and you land on your feet and it's great.
I will say, yeah, man, thank you for saying that because looking back, I don't know what was going through my head. You know what I mean? Like the person I am now, I'm not sure if I still would have made that move. I'm glad I did. And moving into a house like I had my own house up in Northeast PA. Like,
Yeah.
and moving from that into a house with three other roommates who, potentially weren't maybe the neatest, tidiest people. you know, it, Oh man, I'm so grateful. Yeah, that I just did it though. And you're right too, man. Like the landing on your feet part, I think the real one of the good things about that once again is, people move down here, with the idea like I want to be a star, right? And people do, and some of them, man, some of them get it. Um, I had already kind of lived through that part of my life. You know what I'm saying? Where I kind of was looking at my world and thinking, well, I've been doing this already for since I was in high school, literally playing gigs and writing songs. I'm not going to stop now. And why not just become the best writer I could be? You know what I mean? Why not go where all the cool stuff is happening? And I think a big part of me, the things are really kind of moving for me now. Things are like really happening. And I think a big part of that was just sort of being cool and laid back. And I didn't have an agenda, like I didn't come down here. I didn't really bang on people's doors or try to go out and say, look at me, sign me to your label. I didn't really do any of that stuff, man. I just kind of like, I had some tunes that I thought were good. I know I'm a pretty good guitar player, and I was like, man, I'm just going to see what happens, and I think that attitude helped me a lot. If it was 10 years earlier, I think I probably would have came down here and potentially made a mess of it or whatever, I think I'm lucky too. Once again, like there was some cosmic chain of events that led me to moving in that house and then meeting, Saul Littlefield, the guy who I told you, this the session guy, because he ended up like producing and recording the first two songs I put out. That song Virginia ended up getting a write up in Rolling Stone. Like all these chains of events just kept happening that was like kind of out of my control. It just sort of fell in my lap. It's pretty cool, man. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and I imagine that those opportunities probably wouldn't have happened if you weren't where you are.
Yeah.
So
No, I mean definitely not.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a strong believer in everything happens for a reason. And we might not always know what that reason is immediately. And there's things that have happened to me in my life, 15 plus years ago that I don't have an answer for yet. But I'm still like I still believe that everything happens for a reason. And one day, that might, you know, come out, but we'll see.
I love that. I love your attitude. I think that's amazing, man.
Yeah.
I love
And
that.
can we talk real quick about Jaconda though? Like I'm so like, he so anyone listening who knows, you and me and uh Jay Jaconda was the lead singer for a band called Lesson One. Great band, great guys. But what amazes me is he just like one day is like, I'm done. I'm done with music. And he like
Yeah.
moved to Nashville. He's a barber now. I think he's running his own shop to an extent, and he doesn't even look back. Like it's kind of wild to me.
Oh yeah, dude, he cuts my hair.
Nice.
Man, like, I respect that so much.
Yeah.
I really do. Because here's the other thing about it. Like, that's the reasonable thing to do. That's the like the good money is, like the bet, on the better outcome is that, like, the shit that I've put myself through, for the sake of music, and so has Jaconda, and I know he has, like, and all the stuff we used to go through, like, it gets to a point where, I mean, it's just like damn near impossible
Hmm.
to just, and I think I really respect that, man. He's got a cool little thing cut out, for him down here. He's good buddies with Jared, the guy, also who from back home, I'm sure, used to play in oh God, I'm not gonna remember the name of the band. Heavy band, one of the greatest heavy rock and killer guitar players. Jared Peterson, they call him Germ.
Germ, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
God, I don't know why I'm not thinking of the name of it. His band was super well known.
Syphilis, spit can.
Yep,
Yeah.
there you go. Yeah, so
I
those two are good buddies, and they have a cool thing going on. And Jaconda's like in his own, got his own like cool East Nashville world carved out for himself. And I still see him, posting stuff, goes to see shows at the Ryman, and he seems like he's just in a great place, man. Super
yeah, I
fit,
mean,
healthy, like working out and shit. Like, it's really
yeah, for
cool.
sure, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm just, it's always like wild to like see someone who like music was a huge part of who they were, like at least performing, and then like, you know what, I'm done, I'm out. I don't think he's even touched a guitar.
I
Like
don't know. Yeah, I know there's a bunch of guitars sitting around at his house because I've been there. So he probably still noodles,
maybe
but
I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I mean, I would feel like bad if like he like was that like done with it. But I didn't know Germ was down there.
dude, Germ, first and foremost, is the most insanely talented guitar player that you've never heard of because he doesn't play out. He builds guitar. I mean, dude, look at this. He built this right here. This is so cool. This guitar, it just happens to be sitting right next to me. This piece of wood is made out of a 250-year-old piece of old growth pine that was the side of his family homestead in Hunlock Creek.
No
Like,
shit.
this was literally the side of a house. And he built this guitar I just made him put this new pickup in there. I don't know
Nice.
how happy he was about that, but it sounds awesome. But like, look how cool this thing is. He's so talented. This is his company too, by the way. If anybody wants to check it out, it's called Clydesdale Guitars. And he's also a guitar tech and sound tech for Brantley Gilbert. And he goes out on the road, and he's all linked up with massive bands that are playing arenas and stuff like that, man. And
Wow.
yeah, he's a humble dude. Like, doesn't even talk about it.
Yeah. And his family's from Hunlock Creek.
I think it's definitely up that back mountain area somewhere. I'm pretty
That's
sure Hemlock Creek. Yeah,
that's where I grew up.
that's
Jesus.
crazy.
Small world. That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's so cool.
yeah,
But talk a little bit more about this new record coming out. I saw that it was recorded live to tape. Talk a
yeah.
little bit about that.
Yeah, man, thanks for asking. That's another question that I love. It's so what ended up happening is a couple buddies of mine, we all went to Muscle Shoals. Well, this is like 2 years ago now, and we recorded at the studio down there. It's not one of the two real famous ones. It was the overdub studio where they would go and take the stuff from like Shoals Sound, and they would do overdubs at this studio, which is now an amazing studio. and it's also slipping my mind. I'll think of it in a minute, but I became obsessed with wanting to go record this album down there, right? So when I moved here, once again, I was checking out all this great music, and in the back of my mind, I sort of put this like super band together. Like, okay, if I ever record an album, like these are the dudes I'm going to call. Now you throw COVID into the mix, and nobody's on the road, nobody's touring, everybody's, trying to make ends meet and do all that stuff. And so I started making calls, and like the first people that I called right off the bat, like right down the line, were like, sure, I'll do it. Sure, I'll do it. Yeah. When are we doing it? Like, and we were all set to go to Muscle Shoals. And the thing that saved us from not going, which I still do want to go down there and record a record. There's amazing history. Obviously, I'm sure you know about what went on in Muscle Shoals, and some of the most legendary music ever was cut down there. But Ted Pecchio, who I played a gig with, thank you, Bob Lewis. Actually, it was Bob Lewis and Megan Palmer. They stuck me on this gig, and Ted Pecchio was playing bass, and we like looked over at each other after the show, and we were like. And he's like honestly probably the best bass player I've ever played with. He's an animal. And we were like, man, that felt really good. He's like, yeah, man, you sound awesome. He's like, give me your number, man. Let's like link up. And so I started talking to him, and he was like, hey man, the Muscle Shoals thing's cool, and I'm down to do it. He's like, I've been working over at the Wood Brothers studio, this place in on Charlotte in West Nashville. He's like, and we've been cutting records over there live to tape. And I was like, live to tape? And he's like, yeah, you should really call the engineer, who once again ended up becoming a great friend, Brooks Sutton. He's like, give him a call and see if he's got, anything open, and, just kind of feel him out if he'll do it. So I called Brooke, have a great conversation with him. And it just became quickly apparent that like, these guys that I was having to play are, they're kind of high in demand dudes that are all, super busy doing stuff. And it just seemed logical to, instead of like getting everybody driving to Muscle Shoals, getting the Airbnbs, working out the travel, the hauling gear, like he's like, we could just go over to they call it the Studio Nashville. We just go over there and just set up and literally just press record on the tape, and, everybody could wake up in their own bed. And so, man, that was always a dream of mine from like real early on. I knew all those, like the Beatles records, and then, on down the line of, all these legendary recordings that were cut like that. And I think that maybe I'll disagree with this down the road, but I think that I've been working on my singing a lot, which was something I struggled with a lot. I'd been really taking lessons and honing it in. And that was sort of like a turning point for me. It was like, okay, like you're going to be able to like literally sing a record live to tape. Like that's it. You turn the tape on, that's all you got. Now, granted, we did do some overdubs, not every song was the finished take, but most of the songs were literally like, there's a couple tunes on the record. Wander Blue is a good example, which I just love that song. What's another one we put on there? There's a couple tunes that are just no overdubs, no auto tune, no metronome, no messing with any vocal correction, no overdubs, literally 6 guys, 7 guys, just, counting the tune off, playing it. And that's what you got. So it's, man, I'm so grateful to have had that experience. You know what I mean? To really have been able to go into the studio with, especially with the band like that. I could talk about the guys that played on the record. Like, man, these guys are some of the greatest musicians in the world. I mean, I just feel so lucky that I got to even just be in the room with all 5, 6, 7 of those dudes and just play live. And like what I was hearing in my cans, man, there was one point, another great example of that is the song Understand, which came out like a month or 2 ago. Total live to tape, vocal completely live. Like I remember getting done with that take. That was a really deep song for me, and just like literally like had to hold back the tears, because like when you're in the moment playing and you hear that, that's the sound of my youth and all the records I love. You hear the tape come on. Well, I guess it's more in the playback when you hear the tape hiss, but just the sound of all these guys playing my tunes live in the cans, man, and capturing those performances, man, it's I get the chills thinking about it, man. It was so special. It was so cool.
Isn't that like a lot of pressure put on yourself?
Unbelievable amount of pressure, dude. I mean, exactly what I was saying before. I think there's some part of me that just loves to like torture myself.
Yeah.
But no, on the other side of that coin, though, I think I finally like was starting to believe in myself as a writer and a singer and a band leader. And I sort of just kind of like moving here. I sort of took the, because this is another scary thing, which I've never talked about. This stuff isn't free, now granted, my buddies were pretty good to me. And I'll leave it at that. But if this didn't go well, like if we recorded this album, we had those 3 days, that was it. If we didn't get what we needed in those 3 days, there wasn't going to be an album. Not only was there not going to be an album, but there was going to be no money to record another one.
Right.
So yeah, man, the pressure was on for sure. And there's still all kinds of little mistakes on there that, but I love them. I don't care.
I don't think anyone's gonna know unless
Yeah.
you and the guys doing it, the perfectionists. But yeah, I mean, talk a little bit about that song. Understand? I mean, you mentioned you kind of got choked up about it, and it's very personal to you. I think it's about traveling home. And um, any background you can share about that song?
Man, I'd love to. Yeah. So that song first was about to go on my 2018 album a year ago today. I'd written that first part of that song, the little guitar intro riff, but I knew the lyrics weren't right. I knew they weren't right. And I rewrote that song literally like 30 times. Like I was actually driving Bob and Boo-Ray, I think half crazy with like, okay, well, I changed this now, I changed that. And I finally sat down, and the one cool thing about the co-writing thing, which Boo has helped me with a lot, he was like, hey man, like what are we trying to say in the song? Like what are you trying to say? Like what is this about? Like explain to me what you feel, explain to me what you see, paint the mental picture in your mind of what this song's about. And it just all came pouring out of me. So like, that song is very specifically about Route 502 in Music, PA, which is one of the first places I lived when I was a little kid up in Springbrook. And there's a stream back there, so some of you guys listening might know, called Rattlesnake Creek. And my dad used to take me back there when I was a little kid. And the first verse is about going back to Rattlesnake Creek after, not being there for, a decade or two, and just thinking about being a little kid and where my life went. And then, it talks about, driving back to the memory and man, as I mean, I try not to make this like the main point. Obviously people love to ask me about it, but I was a heroin addict on and off for 15 years, man. And I'm very, very lucky to be alive and did some really regretful things. And a lot of people know the story, and I guess a lot of people don't, but and it took me multiple attempts to get sober. Like there were some parts where it looked like, okay, he's got it, and then it would all come crashing back down again. And so that song is about really just coming to a place of complete and total acceptance with like just like we said about the COVID thing, there's no changing this. This happened. This is my life. So you have to, you just have to accept it before you can move on, before you could do anything else. And the cool line in that song, which I really love, which is, I was born in Scranton, and I've lived in every part of Scranton except North Scranton. I've lived in, West Side, South Side, East Mountain, all over there. And there's a part that says, I heard St. Anne's bell ring, and I thought about the songs we used to sing. And my grandmother's name was Anne, and she was, she was Catholic, just like most people in NEPA, and was a very devout and was a really, really wonderful human being. I had a very close relationship with. And obviously St. Anne's is a section of Scranton, and everybody knows the St. Anne's and the Novena, and I used to go there when I was a kid. And that line is really, what's the word, cathartic to me. It really brings up, every time I sing it, I heard St. Anne's bell ring, and I thought about the songs we used to sing. And my Nana, who my grandmother, we call her Nana on the Irish side. And, my childhood, man, was spent at that kitchen table at her house on William Street in Pittston, PA, with the whole family, all the people from old friends, and my Aunt Paula, who's another amazing songwriter, incredibly talented person. I grew up listening to those people sing around that kitchen table, Christmas, Thanksgiving, Easter, a wedding, whatever it was, a funeral. The guitars came out, man, and then that is so, it's so cool And I'm so lucky to have had that experience, because it really doesn't happen much anymore, which I was thinking about a lot last night, actually. Um, those are some really, really special times, man. I have a really, really wonderful family they're really loving, awesome, caring, empathetic people, and they're so talented, and I'm just really lucky to kind of come from that batch, So
Yeah. Well, I'm really sorry to hear about your grandmother.
I mean, she was 91, so I mean, thank you. She had a pretty
That's
good life.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good
Yeah.
run. Um, and thank you for touching on, you overcoming addiction. I mean, I know your past, and I wasn't going to bring it up because you're in such a great place now, and sometimes those things are left. Um, if you want to go digging, people can find out about you, right? You have the internet. But I just wanted to say I'm really proud of you for what you've been through and overcoming that, and being the person you are today. And you know people can definitely look up to you and see that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and that people can overcome great things. So just thank you for touching on that. And
Yeah. I got no shame about it. It's part of, it's part of my story. Obviously, some of the things I did were, shameful and regretful. And I really made a fool of myself for a good few years there, and I think a lot of people in Northeast PA, certain crowds of people sort of just like wrote me off. And I don't blame them one bit. I totally get it. I understand. I'd show up at gigs, high and late and, broke and, all the things, man. And I also, on the flip side of that, I'm also so grateful that there's a huge crowd of people up there that have stayed with me through the whole thing, like supported me through the worst of times, man. It's incredible that people were that, empathetic and willing to like see me through that and sort of just kept rooting for me. And one thing, like you said, man, I'm not like the poster boy of recovery anymore. You know what I mean? Like it's a huge part of my life, but I'm also careful about, I'm not coming out saying, sober musician, because like I did all that before. You know what? I went back, and I really try to stay in a day-to-day basis. I've been sober, several years now. Things are great, and life is good. But I would like to, just to kind of finish on that point. I would like to hopefully, in some way, shape, or form, kind of use my failures as a means to maybe help somebody else, because there's going to be somebody else that's going to go through that. And our area, man, was hit hard by that opioid pandemic, and probably still is. I'm out of the
still
loop
is. Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it really, man, it was like kind of ravaged. I mean, I lost count in the 30s with people I know that have overdosed and died. Like, so, man, I hopefully, somewhere along the line, the person that maybe gets sober, if you get sober and you stay that way, dude, awesome. But there's going to be people out there that are going to struggle like I did, and they're going to go up and down, and everybody's going to think they got it, and then they're going to go back, and that's what I did, man. And I just hope I could help the next guy just to understand that it's a process. All you have is today, and to never give up on yourself, man. You know what I mean? Is if you're still breathing, man, there's still hope, and
Hmm.
it got really dark for me, man. I have seen the gates of hell like multiple times. I've been there. And I'm just, once again, man, I'm grateful that, and lastly, on that point too, another thing I will say about Nashville, man, talk about a great recovery community. I walked into a couple meetings down here. I mean, recovery things. I tend to, surround myself with other people in recovery, man, and I get to hang with some of my heroes, man. And I get to, there's some people, that I'm surrounded by that, I kind of, keep their personal business to themselves. I don't kind of spread that stuff around, but that are really some of the coolest, high level, most well-renowned songwriters in the world that I've connected with, through recovery. And some of them I don't even talk about really music with, it's awesome. I love it. I love it that way. So
Yeah. Well, again, you're in a great place, and I feel like you're still on this upward trajectory. And a lot of good things happening this year. The new album comes out, like I said, April 14th, called Only Human. The first song off that, Hand of the Sculptor, I thought was a fantastic song. I feel there's more of I don't want to say rock vibe, but almost kind of like a rock vibe, especially that song in particular, compared to some of the other stuff.
Yeah, we were going for like the mid-70s Stones rock and roll
Yeah, for sure.
thing. Yeah.
Nailed it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, what else do you have going on this year? I mean, I feel like it's going to be a great year for Mike Miz. And um, outside this record, what can people expect from you?
Yeah, it's meant honestly, my goal of this year was to simplify, and it hasn't really been going too well. But I do plan to really kind of hone in and focus on my own stuff. But so I just got done with rehearsals, an hour or two ago here with I'm playing with Andrew Ferris from In Excess. Recently, linked up with him, and we're playing South by. We're heading to Texas.
No
I
shit.
was already, yeah, I was
That's
already
sweet.
playing down there. I have a couple of showcases of my own, and then it sort of magically worked out that he a good friend of mine had called me one day, and literally, dude, it was crazy. It was like I had like 24 hours. He was like, "Hey, listen, man, I'm rehearsing with Andrew Ferris, and he needs a quote unquote strat guy. Could you be here tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. like to try out?" And I was like, okay. So I stayed up till 4 in the morning, put a pot of coffee on, learned the set list, showed up the next day, and got the gig or whatever. But so I've been doing that. That's been exciting. It's pretty cool, man, getting to play, all those iconic songs that we all know, like you know, all the ones, man,
Yeah, to hear them. Yeah.
yeah, you've heard, everybody knows that song,
Yeah.
and Never Tear Us Apart, and all. It's really cool, man. It's cool to play those guitar parts. But so I got that going on. I also started a side project with a fiddle player named Tanya Elizabeth, who plays with the Avett Brothers. She's awesome, and we got a little duo thing going when she's not out with the Avett Brothers. And then I started a thing down here called Nashville is Dead, because I grew up. My dad took me to see the Grateful Dead when I was 9 years old, and it blew my mind, and I've been sort of a deadhead ever since. But been putting these cool things together where I get a different band every time, and it started as a bar gig, and then just kind of took off. It's been crazy, man. The last gig we played was at the Basement East, which is like mind blowing to me. It's it's like an 800 capacity club. Like went from playing in the corner of a bar to that. And the next one we're doing is at Third and Lindsley next month, and so that's been really cool. Just like getting Nashville musicians together, writing a set list, no rehearsal, nothing. Just show up at the gig. Okay, here we go, and kind of hang on for dear life. But
That's awesome.
yeah, it's cool, man. It's also really cool. Like I got Bruce Boughton on that gig. Like Bruce Boughton is like credited with like saving pedal steel and country music. He literally plays with like Garth Brooks, Shania Twain. Like like if you look at his Wikipedia page, it's crazy. But he didn't never played the Dead or anything. And I was like, hey Bruce, you want to do this gig? And so he did the first one with us and like loved it. And now he's like, hey, you doing another one of those? When are we doing that again? So now like he's the one guy I've had like on all of them just because it's so cool. He's such a legend, and he kills it, and it's just been cool. It's been really cool. Another cool thing I will say is little secret, little cat out of the bag. Grace Bowers is sitting in with us on the next one, and if you never heard of her, you will. She's a 16-year-old guitar player who's like setting the world on fire down here right now, and so it's going to be cool to get to jam with her. And she's got a pretty crazy trajectory going on. And man, sorry, I feel like I've been long-winded, but there's there's so much going on, and I'm still kind of amped up from a great rehearsal today, and probably a little over caffeinated. And
Yeah, you just poured another coffee tonight before we started.
yeah.
But yeah, yeah, that's a busy year so far. It's only March.
Yeah, man. I don't know. It's Nashville too. You like just like I got that Andrew Ferris call. You never know. You never know what tomorrow's gonna bring. So we'll see where it all goes. But I'm excited, man, to get this album out, get some music out in the world. I've already got an acoustic EP done. So I'm already got another one ready to go. I recorded a new single, which I'm really happy about. I know this is probably getting ahead of myself, but I recorded a new single with Ken Coomer, the drummer, drummer from Uncle Tupelo and Wilco, who's been, we've been talking about working together. And so we finally got into the studio together. He's played a couple gigs with me before. He's a really awesome guy. And he produced this new tune for me, which, man, I'm really happy with. So it's all kind of, man, I just keep my nose to the grindstone and stay healthy and, put my, what needs to be, the good priorities, put them first and keep on working, man,
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome. Any plans for a trip back home this year?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Any shows lined up that you're gonna, maybe surprise us with, or just gonna
Yeah.
visit?
We're about to announce the last one. But yeah, I'm doing in May, I think it's like the second week of May, I'm doing Asbury Park, Lancaster, PA, Wilkes-Barre Jazz Cafe, May 12th, the
Nice.
official Northeast album release show. So mark your calendar. I'm pretty sure, is it May 11th or May 12th? It's a Friday night. Pretty sure it's May 12th.
May 12th. Yeah, May 12th.
Yeah. So yeah, that's gonna be really cool. And check that out, get your tickets. I think tickets are on sale already. Then I'm gonna do an upstate New York thing. And then I'm actually doing Godfrey Daniels for the first time. I've never played there. Down in Bethlehem, really cool, like legendary music venue. Like Tony, I have a bootleg of Tony Rice playing there years ago, which is so cool. And so I'm playing that Godfrey Daniels on Mother's Day, and then I think I'm heading up to Syracuse that next day. It's all on my website, but
Cool.
yeah, man, got a nice little Northeast run in the works. So.
Sweet. What's your website?
It's MikeMizmusic.com.
Easy. That's easy.
Yeah.
You mentioned the Jazz Cafe. That's like your home.
Yeah. The Jazz Cafe is definitely my home away from home for sure, man. During COVID, I was like, oh man, are they going to survive? And everybody's worried if the venues are going to survive. So I'm so glad to see that they pulled through and Heather, a wonderful person, is sort of running the ship down there now. And man, that place, the doors and the doors that place has opened for me in my life. That place has completely changed my entire life. Oh, there's another really cool Jazz Cafe announcement coming, but I can't say anything about it yet. But just hang tight. There's something else I got drumming up there in August that I think people are gonna really, really dig. So
very cool. Yeah, I'm glad that place. I mean, there are already so few venues in this area. And then we lost just recently Carl Hall. And there's not really a lot of places for bands to play. I mean, like a mid-level room, it's the Jazz Cafe, and I honestly can't think of another place. I mean, there's the V Spot in Scranton that's very music oriented, but that's like definitely a bar, right? Like it's not a place. I mean, it's definitely a place you go to see music, but
yeah, Vinny's done a great job with that place. I think, man, I think he's doing all he could, man.
He's the best. He's great.
I totally support what he's doing.
But Stage West in Scranton was a great venue. That's no longer around.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I forget when they closed. That was a cool spot, and I'm just thinking like, there's really no true, like I said, like a mid-sized room, other than the Jazz Cafe, really, that I could think of.
Yeah.
But there's the Keystone Stage in Oliphant, I guess, is one. I've never been up there yet. Trying to think if that's it though. There's not a lot. It's not a lot, so I'm happy that the Jazz Cafe is definitely opened up its I guess genre offerings. Yeah, it used to be a very like jam band heavy and things like that, and there's nothing wrong with that, but like it's definitely opened its doors to like rock bands. And I just saw Portland Frank there a couple weeks ago, which is Paul Young's new project. He's from Panacea.
Love Paul Young.
Yeah,
What a
I'm sure you
great
know
dude.
Paul. Yep.
Yeah.
The whole band, Paul Young, Johnny, what the hell is his last name? God damn. Shit. Who's in Ashfall? I think it was Dame.
We're both blanking on names
Yeah,
today.
that's okay. But yeah, so but yeah, some rock outfits that are going in that room, so it's cool. So I'm happy
Yeah,
that
I totally, man. I love the fact that they're putting all different genres of music in there. That's great, because AJ was doing that at Carl Hall. He was doing the whole spectrum,
yeah,
and it's cool to see maybe some of that could move over to the jazz and like the thing about Northeast PA too, like you kind of touch on, is like there's an amazing music scene. There's wonderful people, but the one thing that people don't talk about a lot too is the fans, man. Like Northeast PA is full of music loving people, man. Like they will support you, they will come out. It's hard. I know how hard, believe me, if anyone knows how hard it is to get people to show up at a gig, it's me, believe me. But once you kind of get them, man, like there's a reason why the Allman Brothers had their festival, in Scranton. You know what I mean? Like there's a
right.
the I know the Grateful Dead community talks about it, there and in other genres too, like all the cool stuff that's happened with what's that one band that really hit it big? The Tiger's Jaw.
Yep.
And then there's that other band from Scranton who I'm blanking on to now that was like a cool indie rock thing that like
The Menzingers.
What is it?
The Menzingers.
Yeah, that band. And then you have the Cabinet thing. Those guys are all. It's so nice to see those guys with like they got the whole operation kind of up and moving again. And man, what a wealth of like true like grit and like blue collar hardworking people and hardworking musicians, man. Once again, whenever anybody brings up Scranton, it's kind of unfortunate now at the office. I mean, I love the office, don't get me wrong. I've hung with this, like most musicians I played, with half the cast, but I hope someday Scranton gets remembered for the music scene too, or some more of that stuff now. Because obviously, when I say where are you from, I just say Scranton. I've lived all around that area, and people are like, oh, like The Office, and that's cool.
Yeah.
It's a cool thing. But man, there's a lot more to it than that too. There's just what a cool a cool like mindset and a cool area to come from, and like the work ethic of those people and stuff that I was taught and was like able to apply in my life. Jared told me that, Jerm, when I moved down here, he's like, dude, just take that working class mentality that you were doing back there. He's like, just apply it down here. He's like, you'll be fine. You'll be great.
Yeah,
So
for sure. Yeah, I was just talking to a coworker today, and I wish there was like a space, because I don't think like a venue can like succeed as just a venue that could operate like on a Friday, Saturday. Unless you have tons of money, you don't care, you don't have to worry about the mortgage, like right. And then you can make a couple bucks on the weekend, and it's all good. Like I wish there was like a room where maybe the front of it was like a bar and a cool hangout place, and then you go through maybe like, I don't know, like a door, and then behind it was like a small, like almost like a theater type setting where you can have like bands and comedians on the weekends. That would be awesome.
that would be rad.
So
I agree.
I wish it existed.
I know, right? Man, you should make it happen. Remember Blue
I've got no
Street?
money.
Remember that place, Blue Street?
Where at?
It was in the old Ritz Theater building in Scranton.
Okay.
Remember the Ritz when you were a little kid? I feel like I saw a movie or two there when I was a little kid. It's right where Gallucci's music was right next door there for a
Yeah,
minute.
it's yeah. And then that's like they've been doing something with that. Like I feel like Joe Nardone was in there at some point doing something. I forget exactly, but yeah.
That's another place I wish it, that was sort of like the Jazz Cafe of Scranton. I wish that place could have kept
Yeah.
going.
There's that Leonard Theater in Scranton. It's on Adams Ave across from that barbershop, Loyalty Barbershop.
Oh man, I got a good story about that place.
Leonard?
Oh man, yeah.
Let's hear it.
That place, when I was in my first band, Appalachian Barnhouse band, my drummer Jack Copley was working. He had like a family business, and they were like delivering packages, or I don't know what he was doing. I have no idea the story behind it, but that place was sitting up there empty for like a long time. Now this is like 2001, maybe 2000. He went up there and was like talking to, he's like, "What are you doing with this place?" Like, and there was like nothing going on, and he was like, "Well, I'm in a band." He's like, "We should play here." So long story short, and I wish to God the tape existed. My band played a show there in 2001. It had to be 2001. And dude, it was the first time in my life that I remember like a lot of people. I think we had 280 people through the door, which was like mind blowing to me. Like I couldn't believe it. And I remember that I made like $350. And I couldn't believe that I made that much money playing my guitar. Like it like blew my mind.
Yeah.
But the funny part was, I was already getting into like, partying and stuff that I shouldn't have been doing. And so we were drinking backstage, and there was a guy filming it actually, a guy, I feel like his name was Lonergan. He used to do a lot of work for the Disco Biscuits. He had this camera set up on the balcony and filmed the whole show. And before the last set, I was backstage, and we had like, we're drinking out of like red Solo cups or whatever, so that my mom wouldn't be able to tell that I was drinking beer, which she probably knew anyway. But I spilled the whole beer like all over my pants, like
Oh, no.
completely sopping wet. And I like had to walk out on stage and be like, sorry, mom, sorry, everybody, but I spilled beer all over myself.
That guy pissed his pants.
And the thing that sucks is, so at the end of the night, we were all packing up and everything was, we were all wrapped up. And I just heard boom, like this loud crack of a noise. And I just heard, uh-oh. And the dude that was filming accidentally, it was a, VHS,
Yeah.
accidentally knocked the thing off the balcony and it just smashed on the floor. So there is no recording of that,
Oh,
unfortunately.
damn. That was a cool spot. I was there once. I was there for a Menzinger show actually in 2014. They played there, and I mean,
Cool.
cool room, but I mean, to get up to code, I don't think it's just like people are afraid to touch it. As far as investing the money into that, but another space that's gone unused, and it's unfortunate. But
It is, man. Yeah.
we could sit here all night and probably talk about venues past, but that'll bring us down, and that's not what we're here to do. But and I don't want to keep you any longer because it's getting late for you. It's getting late for me. I've got work in the morning, unfortunately.
Man, no worries. I got to be at rehearsal again tomorrow morning too, and I actually have to. I got to rehearse now for the rehearsal tomorrow.
There you
But
go.
man, I'm lucky to do what I do. So no
Yeah,
worries.
I could talk to you all night, but I don't want to keep you.
Yeah.
I do thank you very much for your time. It's funny. I've known of you for so long, and we never had a chance to really talk at length. So thank you again for doing this. Only Human due out April 14th. Best of luck with that. Will that be obviously on the streaming services, but will that be available in the CD format or the record format,
Yeah,
vinyl?
so got the CDs, got the CDs printed. We're gonna have those up online. I got vinyl
Sweet.
done. There's gonna be a limited batch 300 vinyl, real low, starting real low. Those will be available at shows. And I'm definitely gonna try to get into Joe Nardone's, so that hopefully people could go, if they can't make the release show, pick up some vinyl. And yeah, man, all the streaming services, YouTube, check all that stuff out. If people are out there and want to check it out, all that stuff is linked on my website. So.
And that's Mike Miz Music, right?
Yeah, MikeMaysMusic.com. Yeah, that's it.
Sweet. Well, Mike, thanks again for doing this. Thanks again for the great music that you always give us. Honored to know you. Again, I'm proud of where you are today, and it's awesome to see another great musician come out of NEPA. So again, I think you're on that still on the upward trajectory, which is great. So
Yeah. Well, man, I just want to say thanks so much for having me, and thank you for doing what you do. Like people like you are like godsends for guys like me and all the other people we talked about who are slugging it out every day. Just for the sake of making music, man. You people, you doing stuff like this, it literally makes it worthwhile for us. So it's right back at you. A huge
well,
honor, and I totally respect and honor what you're doing. So
thank you. The pleasure literally is all mine. Thank you very much. All right. Well, hopefully I'll see you at the Jazz Cafe when you're in town.
sounds good. Yeah,
All
come
right.
on by.
Sounds good, man. Thanks so much.
Yep. All right. Talk to you soon.
All right. We'll see you.
All right.